On a quiet Wednesday morning in Robinson, Texas, the kind of morning where the birds are just starting to sing and the air still clings to the night's chill, a blaze rose from the underbrush. It was April 5th, 2023. What police first thought was just another brush fire turned out to be something far more disturbing. A charred human body, burned beyond recognition, lay among the ashes. But that's not what made this scene unforgettable. It was the dog. His name was Titan, a white labradoodle. But not just any dog. He was pacing, almost in panic, barking in frantic rhythm, as if he were calling out for someone to do something, anything. He circled the scorched earth like a sentinel, refusing to let anyone touch what was left of the body. He didn't bite. He didn't attack. But he cried. Low, broken whimpers, the kind that cut straight through even the most hardened officer. He was singed, covered in ash, his paws blistered from the heat, but he would not leave. He refused to let go of his owner, the woman whose body now lay still in the dirt, surrounded by smoke and silence. Her name was Mandy Rose Reynolds. She was only 26, vibrant, kind-hearted, and fiercely protective of the ones she loved. A daughter, a friend, a woman who lit up rooms just by walking in, who always made sure others had what they needed, even when she didn't. She had a spark, the kind that made people remember her long after she was gone. But Mandy would never see 27. Her voice was silenced. Her body left to burn. And yet, even as the flames tried to erase her story, Titan was there to make sure the truth survived. But one haunting question remained. Who would do something like this to her? And more importantly, why? Mandy was more than just a name in a news headline. She was a life, a vibrant one, with dreams, flaws, laughter, and love. Born and raised in the heart of Texas, she was the kind of woman who loved hard, worked harder, and never hesitated to stand up for others. She had a special kind of softness reserved for animals, especially Titan, her labradoodle, who had been by her side since he was a puppy. He wasn't just her pet. He was her best friend, her confidant, her protector. To her friends, Mandy was the one who always knew what to say. The late-night call when things went wrong. The shoulder to cry on. The kind soul who'd give you her last dollar if she thought it would help. To her co-workers, she was more than reliable. She was a rock. The one who stayed late. The one who made sure things got done, not for credit, but because she couldn't stand to see someone overwhelmed. But behind her bright smile and nurturing heart was a quieter struggle. Like so many others, Mandy carried her own battles in silence. Family tension, emotional setbacks, and one connection she just couldn't cut loose. A shadow that lingered. A ticking clock she didn't hear. A toxic presence she couldn't seem to shake. Her cousin, Derek Daigneault. A dangerous bond, expanded and enhanced. To the outside world, Derek Daigneault and Mandy Reynolds were just close cousins, family. They'd grown up together, attended the same birthdays, the same holidays, sat next to each other in old family albums, arms wrapped around each other like siblings. He even called her his ride or die. But behind those filtered smiles and picture-perfect moments, something wasn't right. They had a bond, but it was the kind that bruised instead of healed. Derek didn't just visit. He stayed. He moved in with Mandy when things got rough for him, which was often. He'd fall behind on rent, get into fights, lose jobs. And every time, Mandy, soft-hearted, maybe too soft, let him back in. But that kindness came at a cost. They fought constantly. About money, Derek never seemed to have enough. About respect, he talked down to her in front of friends. About drugs, Derek had fallen in deep, and the signs were all there. Late nights, missing pills, strange people knocking on Mandy's door at odd hours. She tried to set boundaries. She told friends she wanted him out. But every time she stood firm, Derek would twist her with guilt. "We're blood. You think I'd ever hurt you? I've got nowhere else to go." And Mandy, who had always believed in second chances, kept giving him one more. She believed she could help him. She believed he could change. But what she didn't realize was that Derek wasn't just broken. He was dangerous. Every time she let him back into her home, she was inviting a storm inside. And with each passing day, the tension grew. Something in Derek was unraveling. Jealousy, rage, paranoia. He resented Mandy, her independence, her peace, even her love for that dog. Some say he saw Titan as a rival for her attention. And then, one night, something inside Derek snapped. One argument too loud. One push too far. One twisted decision that could never be undone. That night, April 4th, 2023, wasn't supposed to be different. But behind closed doors, something broke. No one knows exactly what triggered it. Maybe it was another fight. Maybe she told him to leave for good. Maybe she finally meant it. But whatever happened inside that apartment, only 2 souls witnessed it. One of them wouldn't survive the night. The other couldn't speak. Police believe Mandy was shot, likely in her own home. A single gunshot that ended everything. But Derek didn't stop there. Instead of calling for help, instead of feeling remorse, he dragged her body out, loaded it into his vehicle, covered it with a tarp, and then he brought her to burn. He drove to Gregg Drive, a lonely stretch of woods. Isolated, quiet, the perfect place for a final disappearance. There, under the pale light of a quarter moon, he doused her in accelerant and set her on fire. But he wasn't alone, because Titan had followed them, covered in soot, trembling from fear and heat, his instincts screaming. He didn't run. He didn't hide. He stayed. He barked and barked, not out of aggression, but desperation. He circled the flames, biting at the smoke, pawing at the dirt. He didn't understand death, but he understood her. She was gone, and he knew she shouldn't be. When firefighters arrived, they thought it was just a brush fire. But then they saw it. A body. Charred. Twisted. Burned beyond recognition. And just feet away, a white labradoodle. Blackened with ash. Fur scorched. Barking like his heart was breaking. Officers shouting, "We've got a dog out here. He won't let us near." Narrator. Quiet. Reverent. He wouldn't leave her. He wouldn't let them near her. Not until someone, anyone, understood. Not until someone knew. She wasn't trash. She wasn't forgotten. She was his person. And he had stayed to make sure she was found. At first, the officers didn't know what to make of the scene. The fire still smoldered, the smell of smoke clinging to their uniforms. But something else was holding their attention. The dog. A white labradoodle, its fur matted and scorched, its body shaking. And yet, it wouldn't leave. He wasn't aggressive. He didn't bare his teeth. But he made one thing very, very clear. This wasn't over. This wasn't random. And this was not just a dog. He barked with meaning. He circled her body like a guardian angel, wounded but unwilling to retreat. When officers tried to approach, he stepped between them and the remains, tail low, body tense, ears pulled back. Not in violence, but in grief. He wasn't protecting a crime scene. He was protecting her. 4 hours, officers tried to coax him away. But he refused. Even as the fire cooled. Even as sirens faded into the distance. Even as the first glimmers of daylight painted the sky. Titan stayed. Eventually, with patience and tenderness, animal control secured him in a kennel. It was over. At least, that's what they thought. But as they began processing the scene, a small device changed everything. Titan had a chip. The officer scanned it, routine procedure. A few seconds passed. And then, a name, an address, an identity. Titan wasn't a stray. He belonged to Mandy Rose Reynolds. And Mandy was supposed to be at home, alive, breathing, safe. But now, they had a name for the body in the ashes. A link between the dog and the deceased. A question that screamed louder than the sirens. What happened to Mandy? Detectives rushed to the address listed in the chip registry. They found Mandy's home in disarray, TV still playing, dishes in the sink, her purse on the counter. No signs of a break-in. No forced entry. But no Mandy. And no one else, except signs of a struggle. A broken picture frame. A faint smear of blood on a doorknob. A kitchen chair knocked over on its side. It was clear. She didn't leave willingly. That dog, the one everyone tried to shoo away, the one they thought was just another stray, had done something no witness could ever be coached to do. He stayed. He remembered. And he led them to the truth. Because in a fire meant to erase everything, Titan was the one thing that couldn't be burned away. He was Mandy's final voice, her last line of defense. And now, he had everyone's attention. By dawn, fire investigators had confirmed what they feared. This wasn't a tragic accident. It was a crime scene, deliberate, calculated, and horrifying. But thanks to Titan, they had something to work with, a name. Mandy Rose Reynolds. A 26-year-old woman. Bright, outgoing, a lover of dogs and baking. Recently moved into a shared home in Robinson, Texas. She hadn't been reported missing yet. But the fire told a different story. Inside her house, things were quiet. Too quiet. There was no forced entry. No signs of a break-in. But the details whispered something darker. A cracked photo frame. A drop of blood. An overturned chair. And under the couch, one of Mandy's earrings. Whatever happened, it happened fast. And it happened inside that home. Then came the whispers. Mandy had been having issues at home with her cousin, Derek Daigneault. Friends recalled arguments, shouting late at night. A few text messages stood out. "I don't feel safe around him anymore. He's acting like a stranger." Derek wasn't just a cousin. He was a roommate. And he had a record, minor but troubling. When investigators showed up to question him, Derek was gone. His car, gone. His phone, dead. That's when suspicion became certainty. At the scene of the fire, deep in the soil, they found something vital. Tire impressions. A unique pattern. A match to a very specific make and model. Guess who drove that exact car? Derek. They located Derek's vehicle, but it had been scrubbed clean, suspiciously clean. And yet, in the trunk, one shell casing. And under the seatbelt, a flake of dried blood. Mandy's DNA. The bullet matched the one found in her remains. The fire was meant to erase the evidence. But Titan had refused to let her be forgotten. Derek Daigneault was arrested, charged with murder, and held without bond. In court, he claimed it was an accident. But the evidence said otherwise. And through it all, Titan's presence loomed. He wasn't just a witness. He was the beginning of justice. The silent soul who stood between fire and forgetting. Because of him, Mandy's story didn't vanish into smoke. It began. By the time Derek Daigneault was arrested, the community of Robinson, Texas, had already begun to grieve. Mandy Reynolds, bright, funny, full of dreams, was gone. Her family had to face an unimaginable reality. That it wasn't a stranger. It wasn't random. It was someone she knew. Someone she trusted. Someone she once called family. The trial began quietly. But no one could ignore the weight of what was at stake. Prosecutors laid out the story like shattered glass. A troubled relationship between cousins. A household where tension had turned to fear. A planned act, a gunshot in the dark, a body burned in the woods. All in an attempt to erase the truth. But Derek underestimated two things. Forensic science, and a dog named Titan. The evidence was damning. The shell casing from Derek's trunk. Mandy's DNA in his car. The bullet that matched the weapon. And Titan, singed, injured, traumatized, but still standing guard. Titan's actions weren't just emotional. They were critical. It was Titan's presence that first drew police attention to the fire. It was Titan's microchip that led authorities to Mandy. He was the first witness. The silent hero. Then came the moment no one ever forgets in a murder trial. The victim impact statements. Mandy's mother stood before the court. Her hands trembled. Her voice cracked. "You didn't just take my daughter," she said. "You took our mornings, our birthdays, our wedding dances. You took the sound of her laugh. You took the joy from our lives." She looked Derek in the eye. "And you tried to burn her. Like she was nothing." The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. Their verdict: guilty, and the sentence: life in prison, without the possibility of parole. Derek would spend the rest of his life behind bars, alone. Justice had a name, and it wasn't found in court documents or legal arguments. It was found in the unwavering loyalty of a dog. As for Titan, he suffered burns. He spent weeks in treatment for trauma. But he survived. And today, he lives with Mandy's parents, quiet, peaceful, and loved. They say some nights he still stands at the back door, as if he's waiting, not barking, just listening. She loved deeply, and she was loved deeply back. Family statement. In a world where the loudest voices often carry the headlines, sometimes justice comes from the silent, the loyal, the ones who never leave our side. This is Titan's story. But more than that, this is Mandy's justice. Tell me, how do you describe Titan? I call him fierce.